I want to look forward to the second half. You quote Thomas Petty, the market strategist from 1981, his great song, The Waiting. The waiting is the hardest part. What are we waiting for in our stock market?
We're waiting for some clarity. Obviously, there's the international situation that Greece is helping us with a bit more clarity. But really the issue is the economy going to be as good as the Fed believes it to be, as good as rising interest rates would project that it would be, and as good as the rising wage trends would project as be? And what we're finding out over these last few weeks is that the answer is likely to be yes.
Take out the conversation. Bring up the S&P chart. Of course, we're waiting for a correction here as well. I like this. I love the song, The Waiting. I mean, if you didn't know anything, that's a line, as Gartman would say, moving from the lower left to the upper right. I mean, there's just nothing wrong with that stock market. Why is there so much angst?
It's just, you're over 6 years into a bull run. People have been programmed to believe that recessions happen every 6 to 7 years. In fact, a recent poll of CFOs indicates only a 16% probability of recession in the next year. And so there's just this angst, particularly when you're seeing China race away, Europe rally strong.
I just wonder, Brennan, are we setting ourselves up? Oh, earnings terrible, revenue's terrible, Janet, and we're all going to get killed with optimism here.
It's nice, range bound and moving up is what we're seeing, despite everything that you're talking about. This is what I wonder. What I wonder about is that with this bull market, the assumption is it's too good to be true, but nobody can figure out why it's not true.
Basically because you're looking at a 10-year yield of 2.3%. You're looking at oil having come down to $60, and you're looking at a degree of confidence that's really rock solid when you turn to corporates who have got tons and tons of cash to do deals.
Is there a piece of news you're waiting for, some indicator, something out of China, anything that would allow you to say, yeah, absolutely, this is going to continue?
China's always going to be opaque. Okay. There's an element of belief. You know, in our view, the correction that we're seeing in China is probably overdue. Is it the popping of a bubble? Not likely.
Go back to what your team says about earnings and revenue, something as boring as that. I mean, July 1st beckons, the second half beckons. We all got earnings wrong in the first half. Even the optimists got it wrong. Are we going to do the same thing next time around?
Well, consensus is expecting another miserable quarter.
Exactly.
The numbers
we're miserable.
Almost 4.5%, which would be, you know, just absolutely abysmal. And we think it's more likely to be flat, as it was in the first quarter. But the difference is that the sentiment is really poor enough such that if you beat expectations, it's going to be sufficient to move stocks higher.
You talk about, you know, meeting projections, Fed projections for growth, interest rate projections from the market and so forth. Even if we meet those, is that really enough to drive earnings higher?
It will be, given the fact that you've had both the euro and oil stabilize, so those headwinds are being alleviated. And if we get to that number, 2.5% to 3%, which is essentially what we've seen this entire post-crisis environment, it will be enough.
One more question, and we got to get back to this idiocy in Europe. I want to know if I'm in a 401k, whatever my mix is UBS saying stay with it, be steadfast, or are you saying adjust it in some way?
Stay with it.
Stay with equity exposure, whatever you've got.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Optimism from Julian Emanuel. Folks, is this like the most bizarre set of headlines? I think we maybe topped last week. Trichet says leaving euro would be drama for Greek people. What does that mean? I mean, I can't believe...
No, what that means is that we're so desperate for headlines because it's a deal that's moving right now that we'll listen to Trichet, who's no longer the head of the ECB.
The finance minister for Finland, Mr. Stubb, S-T-U-B-B.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's he saying?
He's saying there's very low expectations for today. He's saying expectations are too high. You think he might be trying to lower expectations a little bit?
Well, I mean, but I think this is the problem. But he is pointing to a real problem, which is that, you know, Tsipras can come up with concessions. He can give them to the Commission. The Commission has been very friendly to Greece throughout this whole process. But they've got to get buy-in from all the countries that have lent to Greece and the IMF as well.
Yeah.
So that's the negotiation that has to happen.
Why are we not in Santorini giving appropriate surveillance coverage?
Santorini?
The island? You know,
is that where we would be? You would choose to go there and not Brussels?
Sorry.